Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Big Ten Mafia Show here on the College Football Mafia Network. Sergeant Pickles could not be with us tonight, but he is doing well. He sends his greetings. Peace and love, peace and love. I am joined tonight by Becky Go Huskies. How are you doing tonight, Becky?
I'm doing good, Moen. I'm doing good.
Good. She's on the phone because the internet in Seattle is a little bit hinky. So
I wish it was the internet. No, my computer bit it. So
okay,
it's been a rough work day.
Her computer bit it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Big Ten happenings of the past week. We will touch base on the two playoff games that the Big Ten took part in. But first, let's get to some news, some Big Ten news this week. We'll run right to it. Minnesota 2 for 2 for the second year in a row. Minnesota has lost their defensive coordinator to another team. This time they did not lose it to an in-conference rival, but rather the mighty Miami Hurricanes. Corey Heatherman is the new defensive, and this is final. He is the new defensive coordinator at the University of Miami. He led Minnesota to the fifth national in total defense for his defense this season. What do you think, Becky? Was that just is Minnesota going to continue to get rated or what?
They're going to continue to get rated until they step up their funding for their assistant coaches. So their assistant coaching pool has got to be really, really small. I mean, I'll also say this: they can't compete with the money that Miami has. Period, because they're a private school and they're the University of Miami. I don't know what to say at this point. Like, it just feels like Minnesota needs to step up their coaching pool, right? Like, I don't know how you lose two defensive coordinators 2 years in a row. I've never seen that.
Yeah, you lost one last year. You lost Joe Rossi to Michigan State. That was in conference. This year you lose to Miami. I don't know, but they went in-house to promote. And the new defensive coordinator at Minnesota is Danny Collins. He had been with Fleck at Western Michigan, was an AFCA, that's the American Football Coaches Association's 35 under 35 selection in 2023. So they promoted within. They've got a new defensive coordinator there right out the gate. We'll see how he does. Going to be a big year for Minnesota next year.
Yeah, it's a huge year for Minnesota next year. They've got so much talent coming in and so much talent staying. This is a big loss. It's a big loss. You don't lose a coordinator of that caliber because it's not like Minnesota's dropping like 40 points a game on teams, right? Like they're beating teams, 24-17, 24-21, 17-10 kind of stuff. And to lose a coordinator who is basically just not, who's really, really smart. And this is brutal for Minnesota fans. Like, this has to suck.
Yeah, and they don't have Max Brosmere next year. The quarterback situation's still a little up in the air. I know they've got some favorites there in the clubhouse. We'll see how that works out for them. But Minnesota, again. But speaking of defensive coordinators leaving, we'll get on to this one. Penn State giveth and taketh. Tom Allen has left the University of Penn State to become the defensive coordinator at Clemson. Apparently his daughters both live in the Carolinas, so this gets him closer to his family. I'm not. If I was a Penn State fan, I wouldn't be super worried about this. I think that defense took a step back with Tom Allen as the defensive coordinator over Manny Diaz when Manny Diaz left for Duke. I'd no word yet on who Penn State is going to install as the new defensive coordinator. But, after they are ousted in the Orange Bowl, Tom Allen has decided to take the job at Clemson under Dabo Swinney. What do you think?
I'm with you. I mean, it's not like, I don't think it's a tremendous loss. It's same scenario, basically two coordinators in 2 years, but at least Diaz was a head coach. This is a side move over to Clemson. Probably like a downgrade when you really think about it, because Penn State's closer to a blue blood than Clemson is historically. But yeah, I don't think, I think in Penn State's world, I don't think the fans are too concerned because, like you said, I think they took a step back this year from what they were a year ago. They're still really good, but their secondary was a little suspect at times. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a bad thing or not at this point.
I speaking for big Penn State fans, and unfortunately for fans of other Big Ten teams, Penn State, it was confirmed today that both running backs, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, are returning to Happy Valley next season. Drew Allar also restated today that he is intending to forego the NFL draft to come back to Penn State next season. Now, they did have a few transfers out today. 3 of their wide receivers transferred out. But, hey, with the way their wide receivers play, I don't think anybody's really going to notice.
Yeah, I don't think, it's not an offense that they're going to be like, we need 4 and 5-star wide receivers. They're fine with 3-star guys. I mean, their best wide receiver this year was a tight end. And
yeah, no doubt.
We'll get into it against Notre Dame, but, no wide receiver caught a pass against Notre Dame. So, like, it's at some point you just have to go, okay, all right, go ahead, guys. Like, they've got to have something better waiting in the wings, right, Mo? Like, they've got to have stuff waiting.
They do, and they've got a lot of players coming back. You saw how well that's worked for Ohio State this season. Maybe 2025 is the season that Penn State goes all in and makes their run for it. I mean, they came awful close, but we'll see. But before we get to those games, let's say hello to some people. We noticed we got some people in chat here. Clay Johansson, he says, go blue, go Big Ten. I agree with 50% of that sentiment. Nathan Campbell says, hi, good to see you, Nathan. Timothy Green, this game coming up between Notre Dame and Ohio State is what we all play for the national championship. May the best team win without referees' influence. Yes, in case you had not heard, the game will be officiated by SEC officials. So the SEC is officially in the national championship game. It's just their officiating crew. So congratulations to the SEC on that. Timothy Green says hello to Sergeant Pickles and Becky Go Huskies, and of course Moen. I think this will be a great show as usual. We'll try. It might be a little bit of a shorter show tonight. I know we're going up against NFL playoff football. That's always tough. And we really don't have a whole lot to discuss tonight. But I will let you know that next week we will be dark. There will not be a Big Ten Mafia show next week because obviously the national championship game will be on. And Sergeant Pickles and Sergeant Pickles is doing well. He just had some life stuff he had to take care of this week. Bob Swanger says, good evening, everyone. Good to see you, Bob. Shonsky's here. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, Shonsky, the number one hater of all things Big Ten. Tony Lawson, Minnesota fan. Rossi got a $400,000 raise. Heatherman probably about the same. But you guys have got a good hockey team, Tony. Got a good hockey team.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Skevin, yes, says, hello, people. Go Big Red and go Bucks. Bob Swanger says, I am correct. I don't know if he's talking about Tom Allen or the fact that they don't have, or nobody will notice that the receivers left.
I think it was in reference to the defense taking a step back.
Yeah, I think it did. It really did. But
it really did.
Daniel Gygax is here. He says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, Daniel. By the way, if you haven't caught it yet, Daniel's new series is live on the channel, Just the Facts with Dan Gygax. Talks about the last national championship for Notre Dame on today's episode. Go check that out. That is free. You do not need to be a member to view that video. By the way, if you would like to become a member and view all our members-only videos, including the latest from Wild Ute, discussing the viewership and patterns of the G6, including financials, you can do that. You can leave us a super chat or a super sticker by selecting a little cash icon at the bottom of the chat window. And it'll bring you good luck, although I cannot guarantee the luck. The Big Lubbock says not a big loss, but not a big gain for Clemson. Speaking of Tom Allen, I am sure.
I mean, they gave up so many points this year. Like, they can't be any worse, right? Like,
yeah, he's going to have to recruit, and I think that's going to be the problem.
He's got to recruit, and they're just now starting to use the portal. So they could turn this. They could flip that defense around pretty quickly.
And to be fair, Tom Allen could recruit some kids. He just never could develop them. They had to go to Washington to be developed. I am surprised Miami went after him. He was only been a DC for 1 year. Hopefully he does well for Miami. Well, he did. We're talking about you can't do much worse. You could not do worse than what Miami did defensively this year. If they even had a semblance of a defense, they'd have been in the college football playoff.
They needed like, God, yeah. If they'd have had Washington's defense, which we weren't even great against the run, but we didn't give up any points, they would have made the playoff.
Yes, their defense was historically bad. I would say it was
bad. Like, and like Cristobal is old school Miami. He wants to run the ball and play good defense. Like,
he's a defensive coach.
Yeah, I mean, he's an old lineman. He knows what he wants in life, and they're going to run it, and they're going to run it well, and they have not ran it well. So,
Illini Ted is also here. He says, "Good evening, all ILLINI." That spells Fighting Illini. Happy birthday to Bert. Bert is 55 years old today. So happy birthday to Bert. Hopefully he had a nice low-calorie dinner, although we know that's not the case.
Probably ate an entire tomahawk.
Probably a couple. Yeah, steak for 2 for 1. Yeah. Bob Swanger says I was right on both counts, Tom Allen and the receivers being missing. But all right, we're going to get into it. Let's get into the Orange Bowl and everything that happened in the Orange Bowl. Notre Dame wins a classic against Penn State to earn a chance at college football's national championship. Pretty back and forth game, very tight. Obviously, from my point of view, I had the under, and they scored 31 points in the fourth quarter. So thank you for 31 points in the fourth quarter. You guys, at halftime, it was perfect. There was 13 points. I said, this is in the bag, 83% win probability, but no, they decided to come out in the second half and score a total of 38 points, 31 of them in the fourth quarter. So back and forth game, but as far as offense goes, Penn State just did not have it. A couple big runs, but really they struggled offensively in this game.
I've been trying to figure out if it was Penn State's game plan or Notre Dame's execution defensively that was the problem. But their receivers had no separation. They could not move the ball. They could not push the ball downfield. They had to dink and dunk every single time they could. And then when they finally did get a big play, it was a running back or a tight end. Because like I said earlier, the wide receivers did not catch a single pass, guys. Not a single pass. You can't win a football game if you don't catch a single pass at the wide receiver. Your wide receivers couldn't get separation to save their lives. And Notre Dame's really good, but they're not that
I don't know if it's a separation or it's a situation where the receivers just were not developed. And they've got some very high star recruits. We mentioned it last night. Julian Fleming had come over from Ohio State, 5-star coming over. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe at the time he came out, he was the number 1 wide receiver recruit in the nation. And so far in an entire season for Penn State, he had 136 yards. So I think they need to, they're losing their DC. I think they also need to lose their wide receivers coach. They're just not developing talent there.
I don't even know. Just offensively overall, Moen, that offense is holding the Nittany Lions back for years. It's just holding them back under James Franklin. At what point do you sit back and go, we need a whole new offensive identity because this ain't it?
Well, to be fair, they did bring in Andy Kotelnicki this season from Kansas to be their new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
They showed some flashes, which is an improvement. They did improve in that the offensive categories. The problem is they have not improved in the wide receiver core. I mean, there's only so much Tyler Warren, Nick Singleton, and Katron Allen can do for you.
I mean, there's a point, though, where you have to go, okay, so our guys can't get separation. Let's scheme our guys into open positions, like scheme something. But, yeah, they brought in they're basically running Kansas's offense without a mobile quarterback. Well, he's kind of mobile. Allar's decently mobile, but he's not like, he's not going to go out there and run around like the quarterback at Kansas does. But they need to get a little more, they need a little bit. They're bland. They've just been bland every year under James Franklin. They're very bland. Like, what they're going to do. It's run, throw, run, throw. Like, everybody knows it's coming. And everybody, granted, you have a great line, you have great running backs. I'd run the ball too. But, your tight ends can't get you down the field. And you definitely, when you need 60 yards at the end of a game, you've got a ball, you've got less than 2 minutes, you need 60 yards. You know what you don't do if you haven't completed a pass to a wide receiver, Moen?
Throw to a wide receiver.
And it wasn't even open.
Yeah. And by the way, Tyler Warren was double covered on that play.
Yeah.
So that play had no chance. And speaking of which, Bob Swanger, you might want to cover your eyes. I'm going to bring this up right now.
Allar hit as he throws, and it is intercepted.
So there you go. Drew Allar throws the game-losing interception. Of course, that led to the last-second field goal by Notre Dame that put them over the top and gave them the win. I've discussed it a couple times now. I absolutely disagree with the decision to call a timeout under a minute and take a punt with the hope of driving down the field to get a game-winning field goal of your own for Penn State, especially considering, like you said, the only way they could get chunk plays down the field was Tyler Warren and running backs breaking something open. And it's not like Notre Dame was not prepared for that.
Yeah, they stacked the blocks. Notre Dame's like, we're stacking the box. We're double covering Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Freeman basically looked at James Franklin and said, your quarterback can't beat us. We're going to take away his ability to beat us because he can't do it on his own. Your wide receivers, they're not going to beat us. They weren't afraid of anybody with any speed. They're just like, okay, cool.
Well, and not only that, Drew Allar couldn't beat them, but Drew Allar ended up beating Penn State. Obviously, if you go to overtime, I think you got a better win probability, but throwing the ball to a wide open, he said in his press conference afterwards, well, I was trying to throw it at his feet. Why even I can't imagine not having the ball control to make sure that hits the turf.
Yeah.
Or just throw it away in the stands. Throw it away. You're outside the tackle box. Throw that away into the stands. I don't understand it. But Drew Allar did commit to coming back next year. And it's not that I think Drew Allar's a bad quarterback, because we've seen him some this year. He's shown some major flashes. That game against USC where they came back from 14 down.
He was amazing in that game.
He was incredible in that game.
Yeah.
He
looked good against Washington.
Yeah.
And they have one of the best secondaries in the country.
Yeah, it's just it's unreal to me. This should be a Penn State Ohio State matchup, but I don't agree with the play call to be aggressive at the end of the fourth quarter. I say go to overtime. I think Penn State had the better defense than Notre Dame.
They did. I think they did too.
And I think if you go to overtime, you play from the 25, you let your defense hold them to a field goal, you let Katron and Singleton run you into position, maybe a trick play with Tyler Warren to get a touchdown. We'll see. But I can't agree with the play call. I think that was a bad call by James Franklin.
It was an extremely physical football game. all day. Extremely physical. I mean, Riley Leonard had to leave the game for a chunk. Not like a small amount, like a good portion of the second quarter, he was out, right? I mean, that was a vicious hit too. Like, he got absolutely wrecked. And Penn State just did not take advantage in that time frame. And I actually looked, Moen. The backup quarterback went 6 for 7 in that time frame throwing the football.
Yes.
I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, you have a backup in, you have all the momentum in the world, and they just didn't seize it. They could have put this game away in the first half. Then they should have. They absolutely should have.
And there's an argument that could be made that Abdul Carter's the best defensive player in the country. I don't know why you don't let him go into overtime and maybe try and cause a fumble. I mean, there's any number of things. I mean, he was getting to the quarterback, hurrying the quarterback all night, getting some sacks. I don't know.
I was going to say, Notre Dame couldn't block him to save their lives.
Yeah.
Notre Dame had problems with that front seven, as everybody has so far in the playoff. And you don't put the game in your defense's hands. You put it in your offense's hands, but you put it in the wrong guys, your wide receiving core, who hadn't caught a pass all night because they couldn't get open. And Drew Allar's like, well, I can't throw to you. I have to go to my third option here, which is Tyler, which is Warren, or a running back out of the backfield. Like, I don't know where to begin with it. Like, I think I'm just so utterly frustrated with the game plan for Penn State. Notre Dame played their normal game, right? Riley Leonard was decent. Like, he wasn't incredible. I mean, look at his numbers. They're not like, oh, yeah, Riley Leonard's like awesome and blah, 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 blah. You held their running game pretty much in check. You held their offense pretty much in check. When you basically had to come back in the fourth quarter because of your own, getting in your own way. But your defense gave you the opportunity to get back in that game, Moen.
Absolutely. And Riley Leonard had 2 interceptions. Prior to the fourth quarter, 30-second left interception from Drew Allar, Penn State had committed no turnovers. So, again, I got to put this in James Franklin's court. I don't get it. But, congratulations to Notre Dame. They move on. Penn State, I hate to say it, there's always next year. You do have Drew Allar coming back. You've got Singleton and Katron Allen coming back. You're going to have to rebuild on the defense, but I think you're probably going to get a better defensive coordinator than Tom Allen. So.
I think so, too. I also think, like, your Penn State, all of your 5-star guys and 4-star guys tend to be in the front 7. So it's not like, they're poor or empty out there. They've got probably some studs just waiting their turn. But you had a chance with, like you said, arguably the best player in the country on defense. And you didn't trust him to win. You didn't trust him and his teammates to win you a ball game.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but like I said, it's always this season that they can do it. They can build on this. I mean, they did make it to the semifinals. That's something a Penn State team has never done. They won 2 playoff games. They're just going to have to build off of it, and James Franklin's going to have to make smarter decisions, or they might have to move on from James Franklin. I know I've said that before. People don't really like to hear that. Penn State fans disagree with it a little bit, but these bad decision makings that cost you big games are starting to pile up.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not going to get easier. You have USC rebuilding the roster. You have Washington rebuilding a roster. You have Oregon rebuilding a roster. Ohio State's going to reload. Michigan's reloading. Iowa's getting better. Like, Iowa's a quarterback away from probably being national champions for all we know. Like, this is all in your conference. We haven't even gotten to what the SEC is about to have, like, an explosion. Notre Dame's not going anywhere anytime soon. Unless Freeman goes to the Bears.
Which has been rumored.
But, like, at what point do you sit back and you go, okay, where are we? Because we have not beaten Michigan or Ohio State in years. It took a literal, misfortune call to beat USC at USC, which, again, that was pass interference. The whole world knows it's pass interference, and you got away with it. Like, at some point, James Franklin, like, yeah, you beat SMU, who we all thought you would beat, and you beat Boise State, who you should have beaten. Like, this is the one game where everybody was like, I don't know. Out of the whole playoff for you, this is the one where everybody goes, I don't know. Like, this is going to be a tough game.
Yeah, as of kickoff, they were favored. Prior to that, it was Notre Dame favored. Then it moved to Penn State being favored. The last thing I would bring up, you mentioned all those teams. Don't forget, Kurt Cignetti is still at Indiana. He's only going to build on his success there. Brett Bielema at Illinois. That defense, he's going to have that defense going. He's got Altmaier coming back. That's a scary team.
He's got his entire offense coming back at Illinois. How terrifying is that?
and you've still got Minnesota looming out there with PJ Fleck, who only knows how to win bowl games. So look, the Big Ten is going to be
and we didn't even get to Nebraska, who's looks like they have the dude at quarterback right now.
As well as Rutgers. Rutgers and Greg Schiano. I mean, just out there winning.
We're out here, we're looking at these teams and we're like, who's reloading? Who's rebuilding? Everybody's just reloading.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like Indiana's not going. Indiana just had their most successful season in like 60 years. Like, they're not. This isn't. It's already hard to win in this conference. This was your best shot to really like get past this, because your best defensive player in probably like 15 years is gone. Who's not a cornerback or a safety. Like, this is insane. James Franklin's like wasting everything every year.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to look at it. This was a historically down year for the conference. Michigan down, Washington down. Both those teams played in the national championship game last year.
Yeah.
Northwestern took a step back after Braun had that incredible season stepping in. Maryland kind of had a backslide, but this was really it was really a down year for the conference. USC.
It's a down year. USC is just a sleeping giant, people.
Yeah.
Like, if Lincoln Riley gets that thing rolling, or another coach comes in and gets that thing rolling, good luck, everybody else. Because like, they're just a juggernaut waiting to wake up again. Like, and they're about on that 20-year path. Moen, I don't know if people realize this. Every 20 years, that's when USC wakes up.
Yeah.
And like wins national title.
I think next year, James Franklin's got to figure it out, and he's got to figure it out fast. I mean, you cannot have all this talent coming back. You need to get your talent scouts out there in the portal, get some wide receivers on visits to come there. I think you do need to find a new wide receivers coach. They're obviously not developing talent there. But next year, they're pretty much going all in. They're bringing Allar back. I'm sure he's getting paid well. Bringing Singleton and Katron Allen back, I'm sure they're getting paid very well. So they've got to do something. I mean, hopefully they can get it together and make a deep run next year and maybe make the title game.
If you're Penn State, Moen, and you miss the playoff next year, what do you like? Do you think he stays? Do you think they finally make a move? Or I think this bought him a little bit of time, but I know
he has a lot. He has a large buyout. I know when the USC rumors came around that he was going to go take over the USC job before Lincoln Riley came in and took it, they gave him a contract extension that has a huge buyout. So, I mean, there is this huge buyout possible, but I don't know. That's going to be up to the boosters at Penn State. I mean, the boosters are who control everything at this point. So,
yeah, I think Bob's Swinger saying it dropped under 50 million this year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
still significant. Like,
it's pretty big buyout. So,
because you have to pay. I mean, granted, like, somebody has to pay. You fire him, you have to give him. You have to pay him because he's under contract. And then you have to pay the next coach, and you're Penn State, so you're not going to go off and hire some guy who's like hanging out doing nothing. You're going to get a guy with experience. You're going to get a guy who's really good. You're going to pay that buyout plus pay him, $9-10 million a year.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I mean, if I hate to say it, but I think they need to hire a coach that can veto James Franklin sometimes. because there are times he just makes terrible calls. And the Ohio State game was a great example. Fourth on the goal line, and he goes for that rolling out. Made no sense. You've got two great running backs. Run it up the middle. Quarterback sneak. There were so many things he could have done. You know, and
like you said, that Ohio State game, your offensive line is bigger than their D line.
Yeah,
Ohio State's an incredibly fast defense. They're not the biggest defense. Bully them. Like, they can be bullied. Like, I didn't understand that. Like,
but I mean, he has a history. He does have a history of making these kind of boneheaded decisions that cost them games.
Yeah, he does.
So
it's usually Ohio State. It's usually Ohio State, Michigan, where he pulls it out of his butt.
Yeah,
like, oops.
Yeah, he had one with this one because, again, I think if you just let the clock run down, go to overtime, I think Penn State has a very, very good chance of winning that game.
I guess, Moen, my question is, are Penn State fans satisfied with just playing in January? Because it's essentially all you've done. You've done it every year under Franklin for the most part. You play in January. Is that, like, good enough now? Just making it to January? Or is playing deep into January more worth it? Like,
well, again, it's been about 30 years.
You've always made the New Year's Six bowl game. You've always done it, essentially.
I think it was 94. Paterno took them in 94. They won the Big Ten. They went undefeated. They claim a share of that national championship.
Yeah.
And then they had the Bill O'Brien years, and that was, kind of up and down, and then he kind of bailed on them. And then they brought in James Franklin and James Franklin did a really great job at Vanderbilt when he was there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's done a good.
He was there.
Yeah, and he's done a good job at Penn State. I mean, he always has them in the Big Ten conference race. It's just, I mean, if he could just have somebody in his ear that says, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," or some kind of analytics, I just don't know. I don't know. I'd like to see him get it done next year, and if he can't get it done next year, I think Penn State, with the state of college football of what it is, I think they would need to move on. I understand the buyout's large, but I think the boosters have to move on.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if this wouldn't be good enough at Alabama, this wouldn't be good enough at, like, even, like, Arkansas wouldn't be good enough. You know what I mean? Like, there's schools like that want this, and this still wouldn't be good enough.
I agree with you, but I think the Penn State mentality might be a little different because of some of the things they've went through at that school.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, like, the Bill O'Brien thing, like, when Bill O'Brien left, he came from the Patriots. You knew, okay, if he gets off, like, I think Penn State fans knew, hey, if he gets offered an NFL job, he's going to bail. Right? And, I mean, they were mad because he put players' names on the back of the jersey. They were really mad about that. If you remember that, Moen, they were pretty annoyed. But he was like, I understood why he did it. You know, he's like, hey, we're coming off all of this stuff. We need to, like, show people who we are. And then, he took it off the next season. But, all the sanctions, getting through all that, and for James Franklin to come in and build what he's built is amazing. But at some point, you have to ask, like, when is this enough? When do we want Franklin to actually take that next step? Like, this is the next step, by the way. Making it this year was that next step, but I just don't know if he's the guy for the job to get you to the promised land.
And from everything I understand, he's a very nice guy. He's very well liked within the facility. Excellent recruiter. Recruits his ass off, but it's ultimately not my decision. It's the Penn State boosters' decision. We could ask Bob Swanger, let us know if he doesn't make it all the way next year, are you going to fire him or just kind of live with it for a little while longer? I do think he's a good coach. I just sometimes I can't understand. He just makes such boneheaded decisions that you go, why did you do that?
And like you said, is he overriding his coordinators? Like, who's making these decisions? He's the only, like, singularity over the last 10 years or whatever that he's been there. Like, all the bonehead plays. This is the only guy that's still around. So it's got to be him.
And I mean, you could even forgive him for not beating Ohio State. I mean, it's not like Ohio State has had scrub programs and they've lost to him, but
I mean, like, they've had national title contenders. They've had the number 1 overall pick, basically. They've had the best quarterback in the draft. Michigan's been out there floating around with Harbaugh, who, we've seen what he's done in college. People forget, he was at FCS San Diego. They made the playoffs under him after never making it. Then he went to San Diego State. They got really good under him. Then he went to Stanford and he recruited Andrew Luck. Everywhere Jim Harbaugh goes, they end up really good. So it's not like Franklin's not had without those guys there. I think Franklin probably has 1 or 2 national titles, appearances at the minimum under his belt. Especially when he had Saquon Barkley, which I still have nightmares of Saquon Barkley running down the sideline against my beloved Huskies.
That kid was quicker than a hiccup.
Oh my God.
Bob Swanger says, I don't think you could fire him after next year. I do agree with you about his decisions. Yeah, I don't know if he's making the decisions or not, but we'll have to see.
It's got to be him.
He's got everything going for him next year, so he's got to hit that portal and get some receivers. Illini Ted says Penn State needs to continue to have a positive role model leader with a clean program, fair or not, and James Franklin definitely fits that bill. Don't disagree with you. Everything I've heard from people who work with and have been around James Franklin is he is an awesome human being. So it's not anything against him personally.
I mean, I get that. I get where they're coming from with that. But I mean, nobody wants a Georgia look where guys can are constantly being arrested or stopped for reckless driving, DUIs. You don't want any of those problems. Obviously, you want a decently clean program, but you definitely at some point you have to ask is having the clean program better than having the great program? We asked this question in Seattle when we had to hire Tyrone Willingham, because people forget Washington went 0-12 under him. Prior to that, the Seattle Times did a huge expose on the University of Washington, and they pretty much rape, drugs, vehicular assault, theft. You name something, the University of Washington football team got away with it for 10, 15 years. And they had to clean up a program. You had, the Sandusky stuff, but that stuff's in the past now. I think we can take the step forward and just go clean program. Yes. Great program. Yes. But at some point you have to go, okay, I know he's a nice guy. We need what do we need? If he's not the man, what do we want in our next coach? You're probably wanting, I'm not saying you want, what's his name, who's at Nebraska, who's always, got fired for basically yelling at everybody on the sidelines. But, you got to ask, at what point is the nice guy not enough? Do we need a jerk?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that it's not mutually exclusive. You could have a nice guy, clean program and win national championships. It's been done multiple times. Take a look at Lou Holtz. Nice guy, won championships.
Clean program, won national titles. Pete Carroll, same thing. Nice guy, clean. His program ended up not being so clean, but he was a nice guy.
He was a nice guy. There you go.
It's not but at least in Pete Carroll's situation, he's we're in Los Angeles, guys. You're in Happy Valley.
Yeah, Mac Brown. Mac Brown, another great example. Coach Mac out at the University of Colorado, who we just lost this past week, unfortunately. There's been lots of examples of it. I just think he needs to figure out the decision-making portion.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it just comes down to his thoughts. So,
Sergeant Pickles, who's been a member for 17 months. Evening, everyone. Happy SEC is out. Week to all. SEC is actually in Pickles. They're the officiating crew for the national championship game.
They will dictate this game.
And the Big Ten, I believe it was 5-1 or 6-1 against the SEC in bowl season this year. The lone one being Iowa losing to Minnesota on a heartbreaker.
Missouri.
Yeah.
Well, they had a better quarterback.
Sergeant Pickles says, apologies on missing shows during the home stretch. Family duty first. No problem, Pickles. We got it covered. Appreciate you, brother. Give that kid a hug for me and Becky. Illini Ted says Marcus Freeman seems to fit that nice guy and clean program bill too. I can let you know that Marcus Freeman is in there letting those kids know. He is not. He is a motivator. He is from Jim Tressel and Luke Fickell's coaching tree. He will get in their face. He will absolutely get in their face.
You know what? Like, either way, he's going to be happy. As an alumni of Ohio State.
Yeah, I get the alumni part, but I think that he would.
He would rather win it, but,
win it. And how we get to that point is the Cotton Bowl, Texas versus Ohio State from Friday night. And I would go ahead and do a clip on this. This was a very close game, back and forth. Ohio State made some mistakes early on that I think killed a lot of momentum. I thought this could have got out of hand pretty quick. But again, they had some mistakes that killed some momentum. Second quarter, Quinn Ewers throws a touchdown pass to Blue. They think that's going to end the quarter and take them to halftime. Ohio State throws a little slip screen to Travion Henderson, runs it back 75 yards for a touchdown. 14-7 at the half. Texas comes out in the third quarter, ties it up with another touchdown pass to Blue. And then in the fourth quarter, Ohio State has a long 7-minute drive, goes down, scores a touchdown, goes up 21-14. Texas drives down the field. They are getting ready to score, and then this happens. Now, how did we get there? They got down to the goal line, basically. They had 2 pass interference calls down when they were in the red zone. Ball was placed at the 1. They did a pitch to the outside that ended up resulting in a loss. Caleb Downs burst through and got a loss. And then it got the 4th down and goal from the 9-yard line, and that's what happened. Jack Sawyer dipped his shoulder, came around the offensive tackle, hit Quinn Ewers. Ball came out. Ball bounced perfectly to him. He ran 83 yards for the touchdown. As the Ohio State radio announcer Paul Keels put it, it was 83 yards through the heart of Texas. Pretty much sealed the game up for him. Texas got the ball back. Quinn Ewers threw another interception, this time to Caleb Downs. And that's all she wrote. This was a back-and-forth contest. You can see the stats are pretty close, 370 to 341. Will Howard had 1 bad interception. Quinn Ewers had 2 interceptions. Quinn had 1 interception and 1 was a fumble. But, I mean, it was a great game from start to finish. Just a really great game. I enjoyed it, obviously, as an Ohio State fan. My butthole was clenched the entire second half, but congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes. The SEC has been eliminated from national championship possibilities. And, what else can we say? Becky, what were your thoughts on the game?
So much. What I really thought was funny on Henderson's touchdown is that ESPN was, I can't remember who it was on ESPN, is like, oh yeah, he's got home run potential, and bang.
Yeah.
Like right on cue. I have seen. So let me just say this. If you are Texas, you're the University of Texas, you have the biggest, it's almost like it might not be disputable. You have the biggest offensive line in college football. You can run the ball on pretty much anybody all season long. You need a yard. You have a coach with experience from Nick Saban, Pete Carroll, and in the NFL, right? You run a toss on 2nd and goal against the fastest defense in all of college football.
On the short side of the field.
Absolutely. This is where I say it all the time. Play callers get cocky, and he got cocky. All he needed to do was just get under center. And we've seen this in years past with Byron Murphy would come in, his defensive tackle would come in and play fullback. do something, go big. Like, just bring in a bunch of offensive linemen and go, okay, we're going to bully you. We're going to bully you. We're going to go right up the gut. They should have just gone right up the gut. And let me just say this. I saw that play, the very last, the last play there for Texas on the fumble. Yogi Roth was on the sideline behind the end zone, and he put it on his Instagram, and he had the whole play up. Ewers had a man wide open, just wide open on the others, because Yogi Roth was on basically on the left side of the defense. So like he was away, he's like right where Sawyer was. So you got the back side of the whole thing from Sawyer, like basically Sawyer's view. But he had a man wide open on a double move. Like, because the back lined up next to Ewers. Then you had the two that I think it was a tight end and wide out on the, it's the short side of the field. But the wide out ran a double move and was wide open. That's why you see Ewers start to throw the football.
Well, he pulls his arm back to throw the football.
Yeah, he's starting to throw that football because that guy is like on the move. He is becoming open. He is getting ready to like put it in the spot, and he got popped because Sawyer Sawyer put a fantastic move on that.
He just
right
dropped
tackle.
the shoulder and he
dropped
was
that
gone.
shoulder. He beat him to the corner, dropped the shoulder, and that was it. That's all she wrote. Which hilarious that they were both roommates, if I recall hearing.
You only heard that 50 times throughout the game.
Yeah.
But for Jack Sawyer, this is a guy, he's a senior in the program. He grew up in the shadow of Ohio State. He grew up in Upper Arlington. Big Ohio State fan. You can see he's got tons of pictures of himself as a kid decked out, going to the games. That is one of those plays that is going to be a legendary play for Ohio State people. That's going to go right up there with Ezekiel Elliott and his 85-yard touchdown run against Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Just incredible play, incredible game, incredible way for Ohio State to win the game. A lot of people came in and thought Texas did a great job taking Jeremiah Smith out of the equation.
Completely took him out.
Yeah, people thought that Ohio State was just going to go in there and roll, and Texas showed up, but defense wins championships, and Ohio State was gritty, and they definitely won that game.
I mean,
in the most interesting way.
I said Texas does not give up points, folks. They don't give up points all year. They don't really give up a ton of points. I think Georgia is the only one that scored 30 on them. Like, they just don't give up anything. So we knew Texas would ugly this game because they were like, we're not going to come out and get like embarrassed like Oregon. Like, we don't want that, And you also knew, like, okay, Ohio State's due to play a not so perfect half, right, Mo? And like, we knew they might not play a perfect half eventually. Like, you can't have two, like, if they'd have had 3 straight games of perfect halves, I'd been like, all right, well, hand them the national title now because nobody's going to beat them. But you knew, like, okay, Texas is going to do whatever they can to slow them down, keep the offense, like, keep it in check, keep guys where they can. And Texas is huge on defense. They've got big bodies, but they've also got a lot of speed, and it showed up. And it did give them some fits and things like that throughout the game. Ohio State was frustrated at times, but when it came down to it, whenever Ohio State needed a big play, they got the big play. Texas could not get that big play, and Texas made, obviously the crucialest of mistakes, but you go back to, like, they had 4 shots from, basically from within, 15 yards, and they didn't get it done at all. On the play right before that, the 3rd down play, they threw the ball, nobody open. So, like, Ewers is, I know he's getting a lot of, like, slack and stuff for this. He didn't play terrible. He didn't play good enough to win it, but he didn't play terrible. Ohio State just had a great game plan going for them. They executed well. And like you said, defense wins championships, Moen.
Yeah. Absolutely, and you're right.
They
Quinn
made the
Ewers
defensive
did not play bad. 23 of 39, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, that one interception at the end of the game that really didn't matter.
Yeah.
And this guy's going to have to leave Texas this year. He's going to be in the transfer portal because Texas can't afford to spend another year with Arch Manning on the bench. I mean, one of them's got to go, and Quinn Ewers is the one that's long in the tooth, and that's unfortunate because he's the one who really planted his foot and brought this Texas team back. So,
and I mean, Arch Manning shown flashes during the season when Ewers was hurt. Like, Texas didn't lose while Ewers was hurt, and I think people forget that. Like, that's how deep Texas is. Like, Texas isn't going anywhere, but we make we make fun of Oregon out here in Washington because they show a interception from like 30 years ago before every single home game. In like 8 months, 7-8 months, I have a feeling that a play is going to show up on the Jumbotron in Ohio Stadium right before a game.
Yes, you're probably going to see a Jeremiah Smith highlight reel that involves a lot of the game against Oregon, as well as some of the stuff from Texas.
No, I was talking about, the one fumble is going to pop up probably hardcore right before that game.
Well, if Ohio State wins the national championship, they will have their celebration in Ohio Stadium. That's usually packed with 100,000 plus people. They will definitely be playing that one on the board. But let's move on to the national championship game before we get out of here. Let's take some more comments. Tony Lushin says James Franklin record at Penn State is 101-42. That's pretty good. Yeah, he's a good coach. I mean,
he's a good coach.
Makes some bad things.
He just does stupid things.
Moen, how you feeling about the game? Perhaps cautious optimism. Yeah, I'm not going to overlook Notre Dame. And I think Marcus Freeman's a fantastic coach. He coached under some of the greats, and he absolutely deserved that Notre Dame job. I'm glad he got that, but I hope Ohio State wins. This is from Illini Ted. Texas really had a good game plan to take Smith out of the game, but OSU just went to their other amazing wide receiver options. Yes, it's really hard. You can take away one bullet, but they've got 5 more that they can shoot at you. So that's tough. Shonsky says, Moen, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman play for Ohio State in college? He actually played and coached here. He was a linebacker, and then he came back as a assistant. And then he was an assistant for Luke Fickell down in Cincinnati. I believe he was the assistant the year they went to the playoffs. And then after that, he came over as the defensive coach at Notre Dame. And from there, once Brian Kelly left Notre Dame because he didn't have the tools to win a national championship, Marcus Freeman was promoted from within, and congratulations to him. I mean, and Notre Dame fans, much like Ohio State fans calling for Ryan Day's head after the Michigan game, there were a lot of Notre Dame fans calling for that man's head after the Northern Illinois game. And look at where they're at now.
Yeah. This is Freeman was picked because he's an incredible recruiter. He's a great defensive minded coach. He does a lot of really smart things in his game plans and such. And I mean, he was the most valuable assistant to Brian Kelly, by a mile. And I don't think LSU has the defensive issues that they have if he could have brought Freeman with him down,
which he wanted to do.
Bayou.
Yeah, he wanted Freeman to come down there, and Freeman declined. Marcus Freeman learned under some of the best: Mark D'Antonio, Mike Tressel, Luke Fickell. This man does know defense, so I fully anticipate him to have that defense ready to play against Ohio State. He saw what Texas did against Jeremiah Smith. I'm sure he's going to do the same. Should be interesting. Should be an interesting game. I just hate that it's on a Monday. I wish it was this Friday, but I digress. Coy says, looks like Jerry Jones has talked to Deion about the head coaching position in Dallas. Wouldn't shock me.
Wouldn't shock me.
Deion loves to have his ego stroked. But you're going to have to figure out what you're doing with Dak Prescott, because I don't think Deion Sanders is coming to Dallas with Dak Prescott. If he goes to the NFL, it's going to be to some place that can draft his son.
I don't think he cares about where he goes. Like as far as like his sons go, I think Deion has always been about what's best. Is like that job better for me than this job? You know, like Jackson State was his way to get into coaching. Colorado is definitely a step up from Jackson State, and you can't say no to the resources that he knew that they were going to give him. But I don't know if, and I say this, I don't know if Deion wants to be an NFL head coach so much so as he likes hanging out with, you know, the college guys. I know, like, if he were to coach in the NFL, like everybody's like, oh, he just wants to coach his sons. No, I think if you go to the NFL, you don't want to go somewhere where you have to like get a quarterback. You want to go somewhere where you have the quarterback.
Sure.
You know, like, and there's no guarantee his son, and he knows this, there's no guarantee his son's incredibly great once he leaves college and goes to the NFL. No guarantees. Everything depends on coaching around him, players around him. But you don't see guys usually leave for any job now unless they have a quarterback in place. I still contend we would not be talking about the dominance of Alabama had Nick Saban been able to get the Dolphins to sign Drew Brees.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But he had a shoulder injury.
Yeah, he
had that shoulder injury. They couldn't stand that. Timothy Green says, in the national championship game, I am going to pick Ohio State, as I have from the beginning of the year, to win the game, and that's coming from a West Virginia fan. I think they have enough offense. I think it'll be a closer game than most expect. But let's talk about what we've got going on here. As of today, Ohio State is favored by 8.5. The over-under line is 45.5. And the money line is plus 280 for Notre Dame. So this line has moved down. This line started at 10, and now it's down to 8.5. I would look for this to tighten over the weekend. This will probably get down to 7.5. I think they're going to have the touchdown plus a point. But this is Ohio State is favored in this game. This game is hosted in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Price to get in, last I checked, was over $2,000.
No shock. Two of the biggest brands in college football. No shock there. It's in Atlanta. No shock. Like, I mean, if this game were in like Vegas or Los Angeles, it'd probably be like $3,000 or $4,000. Just because, you know, smaller stadiums, not as many seats, but also those fans would probably be driving it up just because they're willing to spend, you know, much more money. But I fully expect the money to start really shifting toward Notre Dame as we get closer to Mo. Like,
I do, especially with the money line being plus 280. For those that don't gamble, that means that for every 10 you bet, you make 28 in profit. So I would expect that to start going down. So if you do want to bet on Notre Dame to win, you know, obviously get in early. That's your best bet. But yeah, Expedition Greg had stopped by the show last night and said he couldn't go there because of travel issues. He had work stuff going on. I told him I couldn't go there because of money issues, because I can't afford to spend $2,000 on a ticket. I can imagine probably about $500 on a decent hotel there. And then I'll be honest with you, I don't think I could tolerate driving in Atlanta again. I drove through Atlanta one time, and that was it. And I promised myself I would never do it again. Even taking Ubers around there is infuriating. So, but it should be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I think, you know, a lot of people don't like the fact that it's two blue bloods, but I mean, this is, you know, it's whoever spends the most is going to get in there. Notre Dame and Ohio State really put a lot of money into this season, and it doesn't shock me that they both made it to the national championship. No,
they put in all the work. They went out and got the guys that they knew, hey, this is they needed a quarterback, both schools. What'd they do? They went out and got the quarterback quarterback makes absolute, just absolutely changes everything. Even Oregon would tell you, without Bo Nix, they're not playing for anything last year. Without Dylan Gabriel, they're not playing for anything this year. Quarterbacks make everything. Look at Georgia. I haven't seen anybody truly upset that Carson Beck's left.
Look at Cam Ward this year.
Yeah,
Cam Ward at Miami.
Cam Ward, they went from like 6 or 7 wins to 10, 11 wins, and on the brink of the playoff. All they did was go out and find a quarterback. Even like Washington State was expected in the G6 to be terrible. Well, what they do, they went out and found a quarterback, and they were great. Quarterbacks change everything. Will Howard, people were like, but it's like he was really good at Kansas State, folks. He was really good at Kansas State. Kansas State was not a terrible team while he was there by any stretch. You give him the talent that Ohio State has, and this is what happens. Riley Leonard was at Duke. You give him the talent that Notre Dame has, and this is what happens. They've been serviceable, too. Like, Riley Leonard has not been incredible in the playoffs. Not at all. Like, Georgia, he's not the reason why they beat Georgia.
But he's done enough. He's done enough.
Good enough.
That's my point with Will Howard. Everybody was down on Will Howard. Kyle McCord did this year at Syracuse. He did that at Syracuse. He threw for 4,000 some yards at Syracuse.
Great.
Has the Syracuse fantastic. Where did Syracuse play in the playoffs?
Yeah,
they didn't. Will Howard came in and took Ohio State. He has taken Ohio State to the national championship game. And
Will Howard had that team in a game against Oregon in Autzen, down a point and was driving to take a lead. Like, that's great. Kyle McCord last year did not do any of that stuff at all. He threw picks at inopportune times. Kyle McCord this year also, folks, had a 4 interception half, if I recall. Not against a great team. So, quarterbacks do make decisions. They make bad choices, but they went out, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, they went out and got Will Howard because of one reason only. He makes smart choices with the football. Marcus Freeman went out and got Riley Leonard because he's very smart with the football. And Riley Leonard is a very mobile quarterback who doesn't look like he should be mobile, which is weird to say out loud. Like, he doesn't look like he should be mobile, but he is. Like, he'll get 50 yards on you and turn around and get another 80 if you're not paying attention, right? We're watching him against Clemson a year ago while he was at Duke. He was ridiculous. And Duke probably wins the ACC or plays for the ACC title had he stayed healthy all year.
Yeah. It's,
This is, for me, this game comes down to whose defense is going to be better, whose secondary, specifically, whose secondary is going to play the best. Because the best wide receivers are on Ohio State's side of the field, but the best corners are on Notre Dame's side of the field. So,
yeah, and it's going to be, unfortunately for Notre Dame, their offensive tackle will be out. He got injured in that game. He's ruled out for the championship game. So that's bad news because the strength of Ohio State's defense is their defensive line. Their weakness tends to be their cornerbacks. Igbinosin in particular loves to get pass interference calls. But we'll see. I like Ohio State. I'm taking Ohio State. I've picked them all the way through. I'm just going to keep picking them. I'm looking forward to it. Like a true fan. I will be ecstatic if they win. I won't be able to travel to Atlanta to see them, but I will certainly freeze my ass off in Ohio Stadium for the celebration should they win. That'll be a great day. We might do some live broadcasting from that event. But let's get some comments, and then we're going to bounce out of here, Beck.
Yeah.
Tony Lawson, Minnesota is 7-47 against Ohio State. They ain't so tough. And some of those wins were with Glenn Mason as a coach. So, of course, an Ohio State product. Shonsky says, Brian is an idiot thinking LSU is an easier route to the national championship.
I mean, he wasn't wrong at the time. It truly was.
Well, that's true. They did not have the 12-team playoff then. They had the 14.
They had the 4, and the SEC essentially, if you won the SEC or finished second in the SEC. You don't even have to finish second. You can finish third or fourth. All you had to do was go 11-1 and be in the SEC, and you had a great chance at making the 14 playoff. And that's all you can ask for.
Yep. The Big Lubbock says Texas Tech will win the Big 12 next year. Okay. I believe you said that last night too. We'll see. We'll see how we pick them, because we didn't do very well picking our conference championships this year.
Well, I mean, in our defense, nobody saw Arizona State being good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Nobody saw Utah taking a dip down. And
nobody saw Utah dunking themselves. Nobody saw Kansas State eating themselves. Nobody saw Kansas playing like garbage for 4 games.
Shonsky wants to know why all the messages are in caps. Shonsky, that's because they gave us a font pack to use, and I use a college font. If you'll notice, there is capitalization, but they only have uppercase letters. But don't worry, because StreamYard raised my prices to $830 for the year in order to keep this benefit of fonts. That's not going to happen. We're downgrading, and we will just go with basic fonts. And StreamYard can go stick all these fonts right up where the sun don't shine.
Paying for fonts. Ugh.
Yeah. Tony Lawson says ASU should have beat Texas. I don't disagree with you there.
I don't disagree, but they were down 24-5. I think people forget that.
Yeah. Yep. Bob Swanger says, great show as always, Moen and Becky. Thank you, Bob. It's much appreciated, sir. Stormy Cyclone enjoyed the show. Thanks, Moen and Becky. Go Moped.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll end it with that. And Sergeant Pickles honor, Becky, what's your one for the road?
So, I think a lot is said about Colorado, and I think Big 12 fans looking forward to the demise of Colorado should probably not be so happy for the demise of a team that essentially represents 25% of your viewership. I know a lot of people are ecstatic. The jealousy is jealousy. I get it. Like, we had Dion last year in the Pac-12. As Husky fans, we were like, whatever, they don't matter to us. And now it's like they still don't matter to us. And I get where people are coming from because they're out there in your face. They're, they talk a lot of trash. But, they backed it up this year, guys. They have a Heisman Trophy winner. They won 10 ball games. And they beat, they put themselves in a great position to represent your conference in the playoff. They were there on the cusp. But I just think it's poor, and I think a lot of jealousy, and it's just at a point where it borders on other things. I don't know what, I don't want to say them out loud, but it's starting to border on other things now. You're crossing into gray areas, hoping for the demise and like terrible play of only a couple of guys. But they're 25% of your viewership. I say lay off Colorado a little bit. If they want to talk trash, let them talk their trash. You guys are already backing it. Nobody backed it up on the field that they weren't better than you. If Colorado takes a step back this year, that's fine. But the whole quote unquote Dion experiment has been absolutely amazing for the University of Colorado and has absolutely been amazing for your conference this year. Like I said, I think you ran the numbers. They were almost 25% of your viewership. And you had a school in your conference, Houston, I think, that barely averaged like 500,000 people while they were up in the millions. So take a step back. You need a great team. You need somebody that draws interest to your conference. Regardless of what you feel about Colorado, they're doing that. They're bringing in the eyeballs, and people are talking about Arizona State, Iowa State, Kansas. They're talking about other schools, the BYUs, because BYU went out and throttled Colorado. Well, we're talking about BYU next year potentially being the Big 12 champ. Why? Because they beat a great Colorado team.
Right.
That's my one for the road. Don't hope for the demise. It's starting to get to a point where your jealousy is turning into other things, and it's just bitterness at this point.
All boats rise with the tide. That's the point there. All boats rise with the tide. My one for the road is the ratings for the semifinal games. The Orange Bowl game got one of the lowest ratings in the past 3 years, I believe.
Yeah.
The Cotton Bowl game was significantly better, but it was about 20 million, about 1 million less than the Rose Bowl between Ohio State and Oregon. I understand wanting to avoid NFL playoff action. 100% agree with that. But we need to come up with a better scheduling for these playoff games to get the best airplay possible. I think both those teams probably could have played back-to-back on Friday, and I think it would have boosted both games overall. I do not like a Monday for the national championship. Let's get that moved to Friday, or somehow get it away from Monday night. The people are not going to be able to stay up, especially with the hour-and-a-half commercials that are put into the game. They're not going to be able to stay up till 11:45 to watch the end of that game on the East Coast. So
thankfully they don't have an extended halftime like the Super Bowl.
Yes, not yet. They'll find a way to do that and put more commercials in it.
You know, my thing on the numbers though, Moen, and you know, just want to say it to the folks in Los Angeles. You know, thoughts are with you guys. You know, Los Angeles did not really watch those games. Obviously, I think they lost a good chunk of viewership from folks down there because they're clearly dealing with other issues at this point too. So I think those numbers might have been a lot better had the folks in Los Angeles really been able to watch and not had to worry about other things. So,
and also these were on ESPN exclusively, as pointed out by Jose in chat. These were not on ABC like previous years.
No,
so these were not
the Rose
OTA
Bowl was
broadcasts.
the Rose Bowl was on ABC if I'm not mistaken. So
So I do believe they had it on ABC. I don't know if it's on local.
I think they put it on the local. I think they put it on the local. I know, like right now, like tonight, the playoff game, the Monday Night Football playoff game is on like Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. So, like you can watch it and like not just on ESPN, but you can watch it in multiple different ways, and it's most likely airing in the local markets on their local ABC affiliates too. So, because they usually do that for those games.
All right. Well, programming note tomorrow night on the Big 12 Mafia show, Nate will be talking to Rex Talk, a great content creator from, you guessed it, Georgia Tech.
He's great. I like him. He's really awesome.
He is willing to get in there and scrap it up, and they're going to talk about the ongoing issues with the ACC negotiations with ESPN, possible dissolution, possible pickups from the ACC for the Big 12 or the Big 12 for the ACC. That should be fun. Thursday night, Wild Ute and I are going to try and get together. He got his family a PlayStation 5 for Christmas, so we're going to try and do a virtual championship game. Ute wants to play as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I will dust off the Xbox that I haven't played for 6 months and play as Ohio State. So don't expect like a smooth pro-level game from either of us.
I was just gonna ask, Moen, like I know you've been playing, college football. I'm like, is this gonna be fair?
It should be fair. Like, listen, no. I played the last 2 Zelda games on the Switch over the last 4 months, so I haven't even touched the Xbox. So I gotta get the Xbox going, figure out how to do that. Get it wired back up to the PC here. We're going to have a virtual championship game on Thursday. If we can get everything figured out and deal with the tech savvy issues between PlayStation 5 and Xbox. So that should be fun. And then Friday, we will have our big freaking Friday show where we will all make our picks for the championship game. And we may already have a winner for who won the postseason. I have to crunch the numbers, but we'll have our picks on Friday. And then again, next week, no big Mafia show because the conference or the national championship game is on then. So appreciate everybody for stopping by. I want to thank Becky for joining me tonight. Next Big Ten Mafia show should be the 3 of us again, Pickles, Moen, and Becky. And until that day, everybody take it easy.